Second Amendment has long been a topic of debate in the United States. The debate mainly revolves around whether or not the Second Amendment endorses restrictions on gun rights. I'm here today to explain what the Second Amendment meant to the Founding Fathers and how we can apply that to today's society. First off, what is the Second Amendment? Well, it is written in the U.S. Constitution as a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right to people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The meaning of these 27 words has been long debated, and I'm here to explain what the Founding Fathers thought of when they wrote them. Well, duh, of course it meant that every American has the right to own a gun. Not exactly, Stone. The Founders actually favored restrictions on gun rights back in their time. These restrictions mostly applied to African Americans, both free and enslaved, who the government feared might revolt if armed, and white Americans who refused to pledge their allegiance to the Revolution. While these restrictions would seem discriminatory today, back then these are what the Founders deemed as the best measures to ensure the public safety of Americans. Also, it wasn't until 2008 when it became precedent that a citizen outside of a militia would have the right to bear arms, as the Supreme Court ruled in District of Columbia v. Heller. It's not like the Founding Fathers were flat out against allowing people outside of a militia to own guns. They just weren't concerned with it at the time. It wasn't their number one priority. That honor goes to the militia, which was the centerpiece of the Second Amendment to the Founding Fathers. Alexander Hamilton even called it the most natural defense of a free country, which further proves how much the Founding Fathers prioritized the public safety of citizens. Even John Adams is quoted as saying, "and that the said Constitution never be construed to authorize Congress to infringe the just liberty of the press, or the rights of conscience, or to prevent the people of the United States, who are peaceable citizens, from keeping their own arms." Peaceable citizens, eh? Sounds to me like he was against allowing people to have guns who were not fit to handle them. Of course he was. That's why we have background check laws, Alex. Stone, thank you for that. That's a great transition into my next topic. So, now knowing what the Founding Fathers intended when they wrote the Second Amendment to restrict gun rights for people who are not fit to handle them, and prioritizing public safety, how can we apply their vision of the Second Amendment in today's society? Well, there are three main policies that we can do this with, and the first is universal background checks. Now, as Stone said, these laws do exist at the federal level, but they are not strong enough. Between 2015 and 2017, 22% of all gun sales in the U.S. went unchecked, a majority of these being in states that do not have regulations on private gun sales. Okay, fine, but would these actually save lives? Well, I'm glad you asked. Yes, they would. When my home state of Connecticut passed universal background checks for handgun permit purchases, the gun homicide and suicide rates here were reduced by 40% and 15%, respectively. The second policy that is necessary to implement is a ban on assault-style weapons. When the federal assault weapons ban was in effect from 1994 to 2004, the likelihood of you dying in a mass shooting dropped by 70%. Well, of course it did, but you can't just ban certain types of guns. Why assault weapons? Because there's no reason why a non-military citizen should own a military-style weapon. Additionally, in 2018, a federal judge named William Young upheld the constitutionality of a assault weapons ban. And the third policy is red flag laws, or extreme risk protection orders. Basically, these laws allow a family member or a law enforcement official to ask a judge to temporarily prohibit an individual they deem a threat from owning guns. This is important because a majority of mass shooters show signs of mental illness before the crime. So a judge is just going to take away someone's Second Amendment right because they might have a mental illness? Not necessarily. The judge reviews the case and then makes the determination himself. Sounds like due process to me. But we already have background check laws. So, as you can see, these three laws would make the Founding Fathers' vision for the Second Amendment a reality. They keep guns out of the hands of the unfit, and they keep America safe. As you can clearly tell, I have changed Stone's mind. Fine. You win this round, Kawa. Nice argument, by the way. Hey, don't mention it, buddy.